Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Microsoft Azure Active Directory, known as Azure ID, which is currently known as also Azure Entra ID. How organizations are using Microsoft Azure Active Directory to manage their various type of users, groups, and also assign roles to users and groups using the principle of least privilege. Microsoft Azure Active Directory is an identity platform for identity and access management. On this platform, you can perform different implementations, especially multi-factor authentication methods, and also different assignment roles in our organizations that be able to protect organizations' data and also secure access. Here, I'm going to be talking about different features of Microsoft Azure Active Directory tenants. For you to start up on Microsoft Azure Active Directory, you're supposed to sign in and have a subscription. If you can use the free subscription, you can also use the premium subscription, which is the Entra ID Premium 1 or Premium 2, depending on the level of access it will grant you. What is Microsoft Azure Directory? This is a Microsoft cloud-based identity and access management that enables an organization to employ different types of internal resources and external resources and manage them. When you talk about these resources, we could mean in the internal resources something like employee signings and access internal and external resources, grant employees different privileged administrative roles and also different function roles. And also the bigger aspect of this Microsoft Azure Active Directory is enable employees and also partners, vendors to collaborate to access Microsoft external resources, example, Microsoft 365, SharePoint, Azure Portal, and also other software as a service applications. I will perform a demo to go through the dashboard of Microsoft Azure Active Directory. That is really what this session is all about, for you to understand different features of Microsoft Azure AD tenants and also understand what you can use these different features to perform, how these features can improve organization user experience and also improve employee user experience and protect organization data and enable organization to function at its maximum capacity. Also, you use a Microsoft Azure Active Directory, you can create personalized user experience by leveraging the APIs provided by Azure Active Directory. Looking at different features here, authentication methods using FIDO key, hardware passwordless authentication by using things pass keys, cryptographic keys that are phishing resistant, multi-factor 2 authentications, building extra layer factor authentications on employee sign-in, whether by phones, SMS, or whether by using Microsoft authentication app, and also identity governance, which is really high important aspect of this, and also looking at the privileged identity management. I'll explain all these things on the demo for you to understand how, either as a user or as an organization, how you can use Microsoft Azure Active Directory and to improve your organization efficiency and also to make job functions to be very effective and most importantly, secure your data against any loss or against any type of user sign-in risk or against any type of identity protections or identity thefts. Now I'll go in to start the demo. The next thing now is for us to start the demo. So thank you. Please try and subscribe to my channel so that you're gonna be able to know more about Microsoft Azure Active Directory and other technologies. I'm talking about how you can implement other technologies either as a user or as an enterprise. Right now, I am on the dashboard of Microsoft Azure portal. Before you get to this dashboard, if you don't know how to have an access to this dashboard, first of all, you have to subscribe to Microsoft Azure and also get a subscription, especially I would advise to get the Entra ID Premium 2 subscription so that you're going to be able to create your own tenant and also be able to manage global resources, be able to have a bigger administrative right and access control. So looking at this dashboard right now, this is the first page of dashboard of Microsoft Azure portal. With that, you can create several services and resources. You can create virtual machine, you can create database, you can also launch Ubuntu server, you can do a lot of things, you can perform automation, you can also create logic apps. But here I'm gonna take through the features of Microsoft Azure Entra ID, which is also called Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Now, for us to start in the creation of tenants, first of all, you have to understand what is tenant in Azure ID. A tenant represents your company, your organizations. When you create users accounts in the tenant, you have the option to create user management groups and members and add to these groups. So by doing this, you provide a common shared access level. For example, you can create separate groups like groups for IT management, groups for cloud management, groups for developers, or groups for DevOps. On these groups, you also assign users, and on these groups, you can assign administrative rights, you can assign owners, you can assign different contributors, and also be able to secure your assets. It's always good to assign administrative rights, roles under groups. That is more secured way of assigning administrative rights, unless maybe users that normally have a particular role privileged, something like user administrator or something like application developer or global administrator, which is not always good to assign more than two users. So here, for us to start showing how to create a tenant, you type Microsoft Entra ID or Azure Active Directory. Sorry, the marketplace. Yeah, I can go here. Anyway, this is one, my own I've already created. Let me still show how to create it. Azure Active Directory. Yeah, when you go here, then now since it has changed to Microsoft Entra ID, I will create a directory direct on Microsoft Entra ID to search for it because here we are only seeing like privileged identity management, direct group. Let me search Microsoft Entra ID. So for you to see now, it has everything has moved to Microsoft Entra ID. You see the difference right now? When you search Microsoft Entra ID, that is the platform where you create Azure ID tenant. Because Microsoft has deprecated from Microsoft Azure Active Directory to now Microsoft Entra ID. But both platforms works the same thing. Both platforms are the same identity and access management as a service. You click here, you could see you create your tenant. Because I've already created my own tenant, you start your configurations. You can put the name of your organization, and also you could see on the domain name must always stand on Microsoft.com. Here you can put your location. I can decide to put Zambia, I can decide to put Zimbabwe. Sorry, then this is if you want to read more on creating a Microsoft Entra ID tenant. Here, I can go to review and create. You will see everything on creation on the review and create. You create it, and also after creating, you click create, it is created. I've already created my own tenant and have my own tenant. I don't want to create another tenant, but this is just a basic way on how you can create your own tenant and start working on Microsoft Azure Active Directory. Let me go back right now. Let me go direct on my tenant so that we see all the features of Microsoft Entra ID tenants. Here, this is my tenant. I can manage my tenants here, and also I can update my tenant through my properties. Here, this is the name of my organization. This is my region, Germany, the English. Another factor that is very important in your tenant is also always put this to yes. If you put it to no, you cannot manage access to all Azure subscriptions and management groups. So it must always stand to be yes. If I put it no right now, I'm going to be limited to what I'm going to be able to manage on Microsoft Active Directory. So I click it yes, and it is saved. Here we have the monitoring that shows your signups. You see with the graph, it shows my level of signups usage that I've been using on Microsoft Azure Active Directory. And here is the overview. On this overview, you will see I have users, 15 users, 6 groups, and 1 application under my tenants. And also we could see my license, which is Microsoft Entra ID, and my primary domain name. So on this primary domain name, every employee or users I will create except guest users will always be under this primary domain name. And this is my tenant ID. So if you want to know how to create users and also how to create guests and manage them, watch my next video where I demonstrated entirely how to manage users, how to manage guests, invite guests, and also manage groups, add resources, and also add administrative roles based on least privilege assignments. So here we could see now the next thing here is the identity score. And here is the Microsoft Entra Connect. Now, what is Microsoft Entra Connect? We understand this is a platform that enables Microsoft to connect through hybrid. And the hybrid connection is on-premise. Here you understand the difference between on-premise Active Directory and cloud Microsoft Azure Active Directory. So on the premise Active Directory, you also be able to perform all this, but it is on organization infrastructure, which can still not really be very efficient and reliable, but to some extent. But on this cloud-based Entra ID, organization doesn't need to manage any infrastructure. Everything is managed by Microsoft. All the authentication methods are managed by Microsoft. All the security are managed by Microsoft. So this is to understand also the different features of Microsoft Entra ID and also how it can integrate the on-premise Active Directory. Now on this secure identity score, what is really identity secure score? You could see my identity secure score is 90.84. What is it trying to say? So this identity secure score tries to show the level of analysis of identity protection that is possible, that is provided by Microsoft Identity Management, and also to be able to show different security scoring mechanisms. These security scoring mechanisms evaluates various factors that are related to identity behaviors, like attributes, activities, risk scores, risk signings, phishings, on everything. You could see on the score history, the 7 days, the past 30 days. We see the past 30 days. We could see this analysis helps to give an application insight and intelligent insights to understand the different behavioral identity that is happening on your platform. Also, the secure score helps to show maybe if there is any anomaly dictations that could maybe potentially be a security threat, such as unusual login locations or access attempts from different unfamiliar devices. Also, show things like weak passwords, expired credentials, or suspicion login attempts. It leverages machine learning algorithms, you understand, to identify this secure based analysis and also to show all the intelligent insights. Another good aspect, you could see all the impact, all the things of signing, all the impacts. It's showing moderate, high, low, moderate. So this is the way it is trying to show all the identity score. You could see to ensure password expiring policy 14.29%, which is very low. Conditional access, enable conditional access, ensure multi-factor authentication is low. So it is trying to tell us maybe users on the platform and members, much of them don't have the multi-factor authentication that is implemented is very low. And also to enable Microsoft Entra ID protection, showing all the impact moderate, so showing also the implementation cost. While we go back to overview, on the users, this is where you can be able to create new users and also be able to invite external users. Here, these are the users I've created. These are guests, which are external users, and these are members of the organization's employees. On the users, also, you have as user administrator right to be able to delete users, reset passwords, invite bulk users. Only user administrators or global administrators or application administrators has the power or has the least privilege roles to be able to create users and also be able to delete users. Here also here you can do bulk operations, invite bulk users. You can also manage your views. Here as well, you can see you can create groups. These are groups that I've already created. So on groups, if you click here, it will show you to create new groups. There are two types of groups. We have the security and Microsoft 365 group. You give the name of the group, you can give IT management, you can give research groups, you can give it anything you like. On the Microsoft Entra roles here, while creating group, it is very important to understand what assigned role to this group means. When you click no, you cannot assign role to any group member. You can only create group and add members to the group and add owner of the group, but you cannot assign role to those groups here. So if you want to be able to assign Microsoft Entra roles on groups, you have to click yes. You can see when you click yes, the membership type is automatically assigned. And you could see the change here, you can assign roles. You can be able to assign application administrator roles. You can also be able to assign user administrator roles. And also to understand administrator roles on Microsoft Azure Active Directory, watch my next video for you to understand the impact of these roles and also how to assign these roles and how to implement these roles to different users and groups. Just right now, I'm trying to show what contains on the Microsoft Azure tenant features and also what you can use it to do. We go back here. You can also perform external identities. You can also by external identities, you have to make sure you are collaborating with the right people or with the right external users to avoid any security threats and also be able to give your external identities different user rights so that they can be able to do self-service sign up and also be able to collaborate or use some internal resources in your organization. On the roles and administrators, here is also very important. You can see because I'm a global administrator, I am able to assign any privileged roles to any user. And also, you have to understand two types of roles. We have built-in roles and custom roles. If you want to use custom roles, you have to create it by yourself. These are custom roles, you have to create it and assign it, maybe a special role. So here we have all the built-in roles, and some roles are privileged roles. That is, they have a high level security protections, which you cannot assign just differently to any members, but you have to check what is the least privilege of assigning this particular role to this particular user. So every role has its own functions and also have its own access for privileged actions. Here also you can also import devices, manage devices, and also through BitLocker keys, you can manage devices. You can also create local administrator password recovery, and also you can also decide to use Microsoft Intune here to manage your devices and protect your organizations with different devices policy, and be able to implement conditional access policies to devices. So managing devices, something like organization devices or bring your own devices, it's very important to know how you can use Azure Active Directory to manage devices and how you can use BitLocker keys. Watch my next video for you to understand how you can manage devices on Microsoft Azure Active Directory. You can also perform audit logs on your devices to know which devices, their login process, if there is any security threat or if there's any security alerts. Another very great function is management of licenses. Here, we look at different license features. And also, like I've already said, before you be able to manage license, you have to be a user administrator or global administrator. We can see the different licenses you can manage. You can manage user management. You can create group management. You can perform multi-factor authentication for administrator rights. You can also perform group access management. You can ban passwords. You can also perform identity protection and privileged identity management access. All these things are part of Microsoft Entra ID, and you can perform it separately on this dashboard. Let me see all products. You can see my license, also all the products I have here. License features, and actually you can perform audit logs to see how your application insights, intelligent insights is telling you what is presently happening on your platform. You can do password resets. When you click none, that means your users, you are not giving them the right to perform self-service password reset. But when you do selected, you are giving them rights to perform, but selected is maybe to a particular group. Now I gave only this particular group right to do self-service password reset. Let's me click it and let's see members who are in this group. Now you could see that there are other groups and there are other groups. I invited users on this group and gave them rights to do self-service password reset. But if I want to give every users, regardless users who are in a group or not in a group, I will click all. So every user has the authority and has the right access to be able to do self-service password reset without disturbing the head desk all the time to do it for them. And also you can click OK. Also, you can implement authentication methods. This is very, very important in authentication method during signings, or maybe when you are giving a user right to invite a user. You can decide the number of authentication required to set. You can decide to use one. When you decide to use one, you can decide to use any method available to users, maybe mobile app. You can decide to use security questions. You can decide to use email, especially something like you getting a code on your email to use that code to put on the platform before you continue. Here, let's use for an example, you are required to set two types of authentication. We choose security questions and we choose email. So let's set the number of security questions. Though this is 4, I'll put this 3 and also 3 to answer. Let's see how it goes. Now I can select these 3 security questions. You can also do what? Do custom security questions, write what you want to write. You can also delete it. You can also use predefined security questions. I click OK. You can see right now, if we are sending this to an organization, to an employee email, when the employee is trying to do authentication, the employee will be required to perform these actions before the authentication will be completed. And I'm not saving it. Now I'm coming back to my tenants. We see another important aspect of this tenant in managing the tenant is the identity governance. With the identity governance is sort of like regulating all the compliance requirements in Microsoft Entra ID, trying to show all the aspects of operations that are going, or to meet every requirement, every access policy, and also to make sure that every users and every members, whether internal or external, are maintaining the rights and also avoiding any security risk that will be of a problem to the organization data. So we can see on the identity governance, you can configure employee life cycle. Like, let's say for instance, a new hire, you can onboard them and configure their life cycle. Let's click it and see. You can see the work schedule for an employee. You've scheduled it and everything. You create workflow from here. Let's see it again. I went back the wrong way. You can also view here, I have 7 guest users that I created. With identity governance, okay, it makes sure that these users comply with every rule and also monitor these users to enable to reduce risk and also to see how these guest users are accessing every resources and every business applications. Let's see the users. Now, inactivity threshold, 90 days without signing of the users, it's showing it. Now we could see all the aspect of the application insights with graphs trying to show 0 guests have been inactive for 30 days or more, 0 guests have been texted for 90 days, and here 7 guests have been active for 0 days. Now we can see all the users who are active, their activity states, and also showing their emails, showing their domain, and showing their name. So we can see identity governance monitors all activities and accounts that are happening in an organization and also customizing it in form of a threshold to make organizations to understand what is really happening, if there's any problem or they're encountering any problem. Now, this is a great aspect of identity governance, showing members 8, guest user 7 that I've created on my tenants, high privilege roles, which I've already explained 9, groups and teams I've created 6, application 1. So you can perform a lot of things on Microsoft Entra ID. You can perform different authentication. You can perform different implementations and also perform different access packages. The next aspect to show, if I open identity and access management, I want to show privilege identity management. Now, let's click the Microsoft Entra roles. We can see under privilege identity management, you can activate roles, you can assign eligibility to different roles to ensure just the type access. You can also approve requests if there's any request from any user. The privilege role management is really very defined in a way you can manage roles that grant access to sensitive Azure resources. These roles can be scoped to specific Azure subscriptions and resources. And also, you can be able to approve workflow and design a request access to ensure that every resources is granted only when necessary and authorized. So privilege identity management is really an essential skill to have as an Azure Active Directory expert. Let's see my approved request. I don't have any approved request. Let's see my pending request. I don't have. Let's see review access, my roles. Active roles. You can see my active role now is a global administrator. And let's see how I manage roles. You can see the roles I will be able to manage on the privilege administrator active directory here. Active is 4 assignments. Let's see roles I've assigned. You could see the roles I've assigned under eligible assignments, and these are group and users. I've assigned license administrator to Marie. I've assigned also Marie as a directory, and also under application developer as a group. You can see this is a nested group. The cloud automation is a group, while this application developer is under cloud automation is under application developer. If I click it right now, you will see the different other users who are under cloud automation. Okay, this is it. Let me go to overview. This is when I sign in, cloud automation. Now we could see direct members are 6, one owner, and group membership is 1, and 4 users. If you want to learn how to assign users, groups, implement administrative roles, watch my next channel, my next video, and also please don't forget to subscribe because I have a lot of videos to teach, to train how to use, how to also implement different Azure Active Directory resources like multi-factor authentications, especially in the idea of FIDO2 key, in the idea of multi-factor a Microsoft multi-factor authentication app, and also how to implement passwordless authentication, which is really very important in protecting identity theft. Finally, what I will show here is to go to security. If I go to security, and show authentication methods. You can see how all the authentication methods you can perform here. You can perform FIDO2 security key. You can enable it, multi-factor Microsoft Authenticator. You can also implement hardware OATH tokens, voice call, email, certificate-based authentication. Let's say, for instance, I've already enabled this, making it possible that all users in my tenants can be able to implement FIDO2 security key. If you want to know what is FIDO2 security key, I made a good course on FIDO2 security key for you to understand all the implement features, installations, and configurations of FIDO2 key security keys. Here, let me do one. You can see here, if I want to enable Microsoft Authenticator, I will press enable. Either I select groups by clicking here. I'll select groups I've already created, or I'll enable it to all users. I'll enable it to all users. It's always good to enable it to all users, depending on the type of authentication method you want to apply to different users. Now, you could see it's already here. So I've implemented it to all users. The same way you can also implement SMS. It makes any user who is accessing your platform or you're inviting will be able to implement Microsoft Authenticator or FIDO2 Key Security Authenticator. Let's go back here. Let's check multi-factor authenticator. You see here, you can lock out users. You can block or unblock users. Especially, what do you mean by blocking or unblock users? Maybe a user that already has a high security risk signing. You can block that user until it is notified that everything is okay. And also, you can perform different configurations. You can perform cloud-based multi-factor authentication. You can also perform conditional access. And also, you can perform one-time bypass. You can as well set fraud alerts. You can see allow user to submit fraud alert off, allow users to submit fraud alert on. So automatically block users who report fraud alerts. Why? This is to enable that any user who reports fraud alerts to avoid maybe that user being more prone to vulnerabilities. You automatically block it until that user maybe has implemented multi-factor authentication or check to know that that user is clear from fraud alert or from any threat. Now, code to report fraud alerts. User to sign, you can put any number of code. Allow users and you save. It's successfully saved. So you can also perform OATH tokens, upload it, and also perform phone call set settings. Here, I come to the end of this Microsoft Azure Active Directory tenant. If you want to know and also other demos on how to perform other resources and services, please watch my next video, put down your comments, tell me what you want me to do on the next demo, tell me what you want me to perform. Just write it. If you have any doubts, like my video, subscribe. I'll be showing different more courses on different technologies and also showing how you can use it and how you can implement it and improve your skills. Thank you and come back next time.